by my watch, we have 7, so we're going to open the meeting. Okay, welcome to the meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Harwich on this Wednesday, May 30th, 2018. We've opened at 7. We're going to hold a public hearing here in the Griffith Meeting Room at Harwich Town Hall, 732 Main Street, to hear the cases that will be called one at a time by our clerk. Members of the public having anything to add or to the cases, either pro or con, will be invited to speak at the appropriate time. I need to tell everybody we're going to be videotaped. Got it all set up over here. It will then be posted tomorrow or the day after onto Channel 18's YouTube website. All the meetings are being telecast now. I will ask the members of the board to identify themselves, please.
Jim Hilliard.
Daniel Twark. Dean Hedersted.
Dave Ryer.
Al Donahue.
Joe Campbell.
And Sheila Delaney, secretary.
I will ask our clerk, Mr. Hilliard, to call the first case, please.
Case number 2018-07, Carlton and Patricia Graham, through their agent Chris Childs of Patriot Builders, have applied for a special permit to build a deck onto a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The application is pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325-54 in table 2. Area regulations is set forth in Mass General Laws, chapter 40A, section 6. The property is located at 2 Lucaya Lane, map 25, parcel R1-28, in the RM zoning district.
Do we have any correspondence on this case?
No.
No.
I actually just handed you a letter that was just handed to me.
Okay, 1 second, please.
I'm going to recuse myself from this case, so I will take a seat in the back.
Okay, voting on this case will be Mr. Hilliard, Mr. Twarek,
Not Mr. Oh, Mr. Sorry.
me, and Mr. Donahue. Only is 4 of us. Mr. Campbell, would you be prepared to vote on this case, because Mr. Capoli has not arrived yet? Have you reviewed the case, Joe?
Yes, okay.
Okay, and Mr. Campbell. So
May
we
I have a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You just handed this to us just now.
Correct.
Is this not what you submitted with your original application?
There's a slight revision that I'd like to propose.
Does that revision make any change or anything in your application?
It does not. It does not affect the relief we're requesting. It does not affect the relief we're requesting.
Okay, so you've got 5 voting members, so please introduce yourself and present your case.
Chris Childs from Patriot Builders. The applicants, Carlton and Patricia Graham, are also here. We're proposing to build a deck within a required setback on the east side of the property, which will align with the existing non-conforming setback of the building, and that distance is 10.6 feet on the east side. The revised plan I just handed you is simply, we would like to extend the deck to the north along the same line by 3.5 feet. Would not change the 10.6-foot setback on the east side. We're just asking to be able to extend it a little further to the north to give a little more space. That's basically it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, to Mr. Hilliard's question, I'm assuming the revision of this plan you just handed us is the area marked in red on mine?
That is correct. It's in red.
That's the only
Yeah,
change?
That's the only change.
Okay, Mr. Hilliard.
So the revision is just extending the deck by
3.5 feet.
3 feet?
Yeah.
That's it? Okay.
And
Maintaining
not
the side yard at 10
maintaining the
10 feet.
side, yeah, correct.
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Twarek.
I have no questions.
Okay. Now immediately to, I guess it would be the west of the proposed deck. Is that a brand new room it looked like? Or has it just been re-sided?
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you...
On the existing dwelling, at least it was up on pilings, it looked like? It was
Yes,
elevated?
that's an addition that was recently constructed. We recently constructed that addition.
Okay, so it was did you have a special permit for that?
No, we did not. There was no relief required for that. There was an existing deck there. We got a building permit for the addition. We built the addition, now we're asking for a special.
Okay, so that one met the sideline setbacks?
Yes, it did. It
Okay.
met the sideline setback.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, under 325-54A2, they would qualify for the special permit because they're simply extending the existing encroachment along the same line without increasing it. And it would also qualify under the Gale case because the proposed deck is, in my opinion anyway, it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. But we'll talk about that more. Mr. Donahue.
I have no questions. The 3.5 feet is not a problem.
Mr. Campbell, anything?
Is the owner here?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I have one question. Is that Mel Wenner's house that you own in Belmont?
I live down the street from Mel, and I play basketball for Mel.
Oh, okay.
I played Mel's last year as the last basketball coach. I was a senior, went to his camp and everything.
I emceed 2 of his retirement parties.
Nice to see you, sir.
Okay, anyone in the audience
to be
would like
seen.
to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone wants to speak in opposition? I don't think we have any public officials here tonight. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Okay, the hearing's closed. Any discussion? I think it meets the requirements for a special permit under both the bylaw and the Gale case, so seems pretty clear cut. So I'll entertain a motion in the case.
So moved.
Second.
Wait, not so moved. We need a motion to grant a special permit.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to grant a special permit.
Okay, where's my, I think we should grant the motion to build the deck. You gotta read what
Yep.
it is there.
Carlton and Patricia Graham, through their agent, Chris Childs of the Patriot Builders, have applied for a special permit.
We hereby grant a special permit.
Hereby granted a special permit for the property located at 2 Lakea Lane, map 25, parcel R1-28, the RM zoning district.
Okay, you gotta add that special permit to build the deck onto the pre-existing.
There's a special permit to build a deck on a pre-existing, non-conforming, single-family dwelling.
Okay, in accordance with, and then we're gonna reference the plans.
Okay. In accordance with Moran and Associates LLC, existing and proposed conditions, plot plan revised as of 5/29/18.
Say in accordance with the drawings, though.
In accordance with the drawings of the proposed floor plan proposed by Patriot Builders as A1, A2, A3 conclusively.
Okay. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye, opposed? All right, granted unanimously. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
You want this one?
Okay, Mr. Hilliard, if you could please call the next case.
Case number 2018-08, Michelle Coughlin as has applied for a special permit to construct a connecting mudroom addition onto a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and accessory structure. The application is pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325, table 2, area regulations as set forth, Mass General Laws, chapter 48, section 6. The property is located at 70 Kelly Road, map 3, parcel W13, in the RH-1 zoning district. We have one piece of correspondence. To the Zoning Board of Appeal from Megan Eldridge, Health Director, dated May 11, 2018. Request for departmental input for May 30th, 2018 meeting. Case number 2018-08. I have reviewed the application for a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the project at 70 Kelly Road. The septic system is designed for 4 bedrooms. Our file indicates a main dwelling with 3 bedrooms plus a study. The plans on file show an accessory structure that is not habitable without bedrooms or plumbing. The proposed plan shows a new bedroom on the 2nd floor of the accessory building along with a full bathroom. In order to allow this, the health department will require accurate floor plans of the existing house and confirmation that the plumbing exit exists to the Title V septic system. The exits to the Title V septic system. Should you require further information, please do not hesitate to contact me.
Okay, voting on the case was going to be Mr. Hilliard, Mr. Tworick, Mr. Hedersted, me, and Mr. Donahue. Thank you, sir. If you could introduce yourself, please, and present your case.
Sure. My name is Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Downcape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping out Rescom. Greg Sarunian had helped the applicant with the filing, and the applicant, Michelle Coughlin, is in the audience if you have any questions of her, but I think this is a pretty straightforward matter. Her father, Terry Whittemore, is there as well, who is a licensed builder and is helping out with some of the permitting and so forth. So this is, as I said, a pretty straightforward matter. We're simply renovating an existing non-conforming structure and putting a little connector in. So I took the file plan February 28th and I colored in red there. That little connector is the only new footprint. That's fully conforming to all the yard setbacks, and it conforms to site coverage and building coverage quite handily as well. Just as a little bit of history on the site, it's a property that is rear section of the house is quite old. Here's a photograph, which you could have if you help, but I think it's helpful. So that rear section is already there, and that little bump out is on the side, and we rebuilt this with a modular colonial back in 08, 09 period. At that time, we got permission to connect the two, but between finances and an illness in the family, the connection was never made. And now finally, Michelle has got the money together to renovate that rear section, and the building commissioner thought that we ought to come before this board, because now the permit to connect it having lapsed and it being non-conforming and an abundance of caution, thought we should have it blessed by this board to make that connection. It's actually getting a little bit better, as the application says, because in the back there was a porch which the roof was in disrepair, so it was removed, so now a deck, and that's being reduced down, you can see, by about half, so it's a much smaller deck. It's in the exact same footprint as what's been there since 1800s or whatnot. So the only part that's new is in the red there. It's a modest connector. In response to Megan, who was nice enough to get us to comment some time back, prepared a new sketch plan. We looked at the floor plans, and she's in full concurrence that will be a 4-bedroom design. The only thing we're doing is, if it's of interest to you, I'll show you the inside this living room. There was a pocket door which we're going to remove in case, and she thought that would be fine. That's this section here. If you would like the copy of the plan, we can give it to you, or you could just condition it upon her approval. But that pocket door is going to be a 5-foot opening, and just trim it out so that the living room couldn't be considered a bedroom. Title V has very strict rules, and even though it's a living room with a fireplace, someone could technically put a bed in there. So that's how we're curing that. And the other part of her comment is that there will be, when we did the addition here, we ran a sewer pipe. I know that's not really in your purview, like this, and left a Y. And so all we've got to do is just connect this in like that. And so we'll give her those plans as part of the building permit package. And we're working with a licensed plumber to get that work done. So that's the other little loose end. But again, it's pretty straightforward. It had a permit before. Now it's considered to be, non-conforming enough that it needs to come in for a special permit, and we sure would appreciate your approval. We feel it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood in any manner, because it's basically just infilling and, making it a nice conforming house, one big structure on the site. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Could you just bring that plan so we could see the red part, just walk it around here for us?
So that's the mudroom there in the middle. The reason this is dark in the back is because it's being renovated, so we just wanted to highlight that, but that's all there already.
Okay, so in this, what about these two little pieces there that,
Yeah, those are steps.
Okay.
It's just little at-grade steps.
So,
Okay.
again, what is there existing, is this exists already?
That's already there.
So this is the only one we're
already there.
talking about?
Yep. just a
Okay, thank
connector.
you.
Yeah,
That helps.
yes?
Just a little connector between the two. Yeah. And, that rear section is quite old, and, it's been through historic already, so the building commissioner was fine with leaving that right where it is, subject, of course, to the special permit that we're allowed to make the connection.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Hilliard?
Yes. The renovation portion, proposed renovation, that is not changing the footprint at all?
Zero. No, it's all inside stuff.
Is that, then we get to the proposed addition, is that habitable space?
Um,
And heating?
Yeah, it's a mudroom. Yeah, it'll have heat.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Torek?
Just to clarify, when you say connector, and then you use the term mudroom.
Yeah. It's both. It's a mudroom connector.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I have no
Mr. Hedersted?
The only comment I have is that I believe that this particular case complies with the Gale case, and that it does not add any new variances or changes to the existing setbacks. In fact, it may extend, but it doesn't add any new ones. So I assume my position is that it meets the Gale case requirements, and therefore a special permit is applicable. I have no questions other than that statement.
Yeah, I agree with that statement, Mr. Hedersted, but I would like a condition in any special permit that's granted that the applicant comply with the requirements that were in. Was that from the Board of Health, Jim?
I've
That
got it.
letter?
Yeah, I've got that.
And we can cite that. The only question I have, looking at the plan, it would be, I guess, southwest side of the proposed renovation. You've got 15.1, the first line, which would be the more easterly, coming to a point, and then there's a second 15.1 line to the deck. But they connect. There's something coming out there?
Well, it's one of those odd situations where you're not quite sure how to annotate it, but this is all existing. It was a porch and the roof is off, so right now it's a big deck. We're reducing it down to this size. So the nearest point of the existing is here, the nearest point of the proposed is there. They happen to be the same because it's parallel to that
Okay, but the front
3250
part's
line.
being eliminated.
Yeah, the whole southeast corner is being wiped out, so in that respect, there'll be a lot less structure in the yard setbacks than there is now.
Okay.
So it's a nice improvement from a zoning perspective.
Got you. I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't sure.
It could have been labeled more clearly.
Oh, it's okay. Mr. Donahue?
I do not have any questions.
Mr. Campbell?
No questions.
Is there anyone in the audience would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Donahue on the second. Hearing's closed. I will entertain a motion on the case.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the board hereby grants a special permit to construct a connecting mudroom addition onto a pre-existing, non-conforming, single-family dwelling and necessary and an accessory structure. The application was made pursuant to the Code of Town of Harwich, Section 325, Table 2, Area Regulations set forth in MGL Chapter 40A, Section 6. The property is located at 70 Kelly Road, Map 3, Parcel W13, in the RH-1 zoning district. The work is to be performed in accordance with the site plan provided by Brian Coughlin, Engine Cape Cod,
Prepared for.
prepared for Brian Coughlin, by Down Cape Engineering, and it's dated 2/28/17, and drawings prepared by Rescom, dated 3/26/18, EX1, EX2, A1, A2, all dated 3/26/18, and the following condition, that the applicant will be required to review with the Board of Health for septic tank acceptance for this particular project. And other than that, I have no further comments.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Donahue, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Granted.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hilliard, if you could please read our next
Case
case.
number 2018-09, Neil S. Winnig, trustee of Skinnequit Realty Trust, through his agent, attorney William Kroll, has applied for a special permit to demolish and replace an existing boathouse and deck. The application is pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-54B, as set forth in Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 6. The property is located at 0 Deep Hole Road, also known as 12 Skinnequit Lane, Map 17, Parcel A1-65, in the RM zoning district. We have two articles of correspondence. And the first is from Maggie Eldridge, Health Director. Case number 2018-09. I have reviewed the application for a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the project at 0 Deep Hole Road, also known as 12 Skinnequit Lane. The Health Department files indicate that this boathouse is not currently served by a septic system and no plumbing exists within it. The applicant proposes to raise and replace an existing boathouse and deck. Should plumbing be introduced to the boathouse, a fully compliant septic system will be required. No variances from Title V or local regulations will be granted. Should you require further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. The second article in correspondence is from the Conservation Commission. Please note the following concerns. Project requires additional permits or review, requires Conservation Commission approval, and this is case number 2018-9.
Attorney Crowell, if you could introduce yourself and who's with you, please, and then present your case. I'm sorry, okay, who's voting? Okay, Mr. Hilliard, thank you. Mr. Hilliard, Mr. Tvorick, Mr. Hedersted, me, and Mr. Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney William Kroll from Harwich Port. I have seated with me Neil Winnig, who's the trustee of the Skinnequit Realty Trust, who's the owner of the property. Also seated in the audience is Dan Croto from Moran Engineering, who drew up the plans, and John Chapman, the builder, seated beside him for the proposed boathouse. I included with the petition a copy of the assessors map to show you the location of the boathouse in question at the end of Skinnequit Lane. There's a cul-de-sac there, and then you see the boathouse at the outlet from Skinnequit Pond to Skinnequit Pond Brook, which goes down to Red River Beach. This time of year, there would be herring in that brook. As a young boy, my older brother and I used to catch herring in that brook and then go down to the long jetty at the end of Red River Beach and catch striped bass and bluefish. So we had a lot of good memories down there. We didn't go all the way up to your property there, Neil. It's more on the other side of Uncle Beanie's Road. But in any event, you have the certified plot plan of the existing conditions and the proposed conditions by Dan Croto at Moran Engineering. The only difference, as I see it, between this proposed and the existing is that there would be proposed steps on the boathouse and the deck, and that would increase the site coverage from 9.2% to 9.9%, still well below the 35% that's allowed. So there's no plumbing facilities. I don't believe there's any intention to have any plumbing facilities, but we had previously received Megan Eldridge's email memo from the health department, so we're well aware of that. So the we have a denial letter that I filed with the petition from Mr. Chesley, the building commissioner, who cites a specific section of the bylaw that's on point with this petition. And that's 32554B. Not often used, but seems to apply to this case nicely. So ordinarily, when we're asking for a special permit, it's for a single or two-family residential dwelling, and that's not the case here. So different rules apply, somewhat different rules apply. So it says, except for single and two-family dwellings provided for in subsection A5, a lawfully pre-existing structure, which this is, whether conforming or not, used for a lawfully non-conforming use. Well, this is a sole lot with a boathouse on it in a residential zone, so it's a non-conforming use, but it's been there for a very, very long time. And this board, by special permit, can allow for it to be raised and replaced with a new structure on the same site if it meets certain conditions. So there are three conditions that you need to find this evening are met in order to issue the special permit. First of which would be that the new structure, which is basically going to be the same as the existing structure, except for those two steps that I mentioned. You need to find that that structure, the new structure, will not be a substantial detriment to the neighborhood any more than the existing structure would be. B, that it will not cause or contribute to any undue nuisance, hazard, or congestion in the neighborhood, zoning district, or town. And C, that the replacement structure will be used for the same use or for a conforming use. Well, it's going to be a boathouse still. Mr. Winnig has been using it right up to the present time as a boathouse. There's been no lapse in the use as a boathouse by him during his ownership. So he intends to use it for the same non-conforming use as the existing boathouse. Why is he replacing it? Because it's in a state of disrepair, it's old, and it may collapse in a year or two. And it could pose a danger to not just anybody that's inside of it, but you can see it's somewhat precarious position. It straddles the Herring Brook. So we don't want anything going on with the environment there because of a building falling into that brook. He's also asked, per the Conservation Commission's suggestion to raise up the boathouse 16 inches, I believe is what they've called for. So I put that in the petition as part of the relief requested. There are two other sections to that bylaw section that I referred to. So number 2 says, in no case shall a non-conforming use be changed to another non-conforming use. We're not. We're keeping it as a boathouse. Number 3, that if the non-conforming use has been discontinued for a period of 2 consecutive years, then it's conclusively presumed to be abandoned. And Mr. Winnig's testimony this evening is that he has not abandoned that use. It's continued all along over the years as a boathouse use right up to the present time. Correct, Mr. Winnig? So, he's aware of the Board of Health memo. He's aware of the Conservation Commission memo. So we are proceeding to obtain the approval from the Conservation Commission, and no intention to put any plumbing facilities in the new boathouse. So just to recap, it's our position that the new structure will not be a substantial detriment to the neighborhood. It will not create any substantial increase in noise, traffic, odors, fumes, congestion, or the like. And we would ask that the board grant the special permit accordingly in accordance with that section of the bylaw. Thank you.
I guess the only issue I have is I don't think it is a non-conforming use. I think it's a conforming use permitted under the definition of accessory building residential. I really think you're under A7 and you really need to make a case for variance.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully disagree for 2 reasons. First of all, this boathouse is on its own lot. It's not accessory to a principal structure on the same lot. And I believe that that's the definition that would have to be met in accordance with the provision in the section that you cited in the bylaw.
Okay.
It's freestanding on its own lot, and that is Land Court Plan
It is.
10688U. All right, it's a little tiny lot, 69 feet by 121 feet by 74.39 feet.
Right.
The accessory building residential definition says a detached structure located on the same lot
Okay.
with the principal residential structure, okay? The bylaw section that I'm referring to also says, number 2, that a lawfully pre-existing structure, whether conforming or not, used for a lawfully non-conforming use. My argument would be that we are conforming. I mean, even if we are conforming, as you suggested, we still would fall under this section. But the main argument is that we're not on the same lot as a principal structure.
Okay, I'll accept that, although I
Thank you.
I think you're qualified for a variance on the particular facts, but
I'd rather
we'll
try to
treat it-
meet the
we'll treat it as a special permit.
permit standard.
Okay, Mr.
What,
Hilliard.
in your opinion, makes it a pre-existing non-conforming structure?
A couple of things. One is that it does not meet the setbacks of that small lot, a non-conforming structure.
For a non-residential facility?
Yes.
Or any facility?
Any facility. When you look at that plot plan that was submitted, we're 5 feet from the lot line.
Right.
And we're 8.4 feet from the pond, and we're 17 feet.
What in your opinion is the required setback or the dimensional requirements for a structure of a boathouse, non-habitable?
At this, if it were built today, it'd have to be 20 feet from the lot lines. And it's only 4.8 on the southeasterly side.
Okay.
It's also, on its own lot, used as a boathouse in a residential zone, which is not allowed.
When is the last time you had a boat in the boathouse?
There's a boat in the boathouse now.
So you-
Canoes,
It's always been used
yes.
same way? How many boats do you have in there?
When it's full, it has 2 canoes, a kayak, and a sunfish, and a big paddle boat.
These are all for personal use?
Yes, our neighbor, we store our neighbor's couple of boats in there along with ours.
So there's no commercial use of it other than? I have no further questions here.
I have no questions.
I don't have any
Mr. Hedersted.
questions.
I have no
You've
questions.
answered my question.
All right.
Yes.
Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone want to speak against it? I'll entertain a motion to close the case.
So move.
Close the hearing.
Second.
Hearing is closed. I'll entertain a motion on the case.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the board hereby grants Neil S. Winning, trustee of the Skinnequit Realty Trust, a special permit to demolish and replace an existing boathouse and deck. The application was made pursuant to the Code of Town of Harwich, 325-54B, is set forth in MGL Chapter 40A, Section 6. The property is located at 0 Deep Hole Road, AKA 12 Skinnequit Lane, map 17, partial A1-65, in the RM zoning district. The case is granted based upon Moran Engineering LLC drawings dated dated 4/18-18, and I guess there's 2 of them. The one is it has, I'm not sure.
Existing conditions is 418.
One is the proposed conditions of the boathouse, and the other one is existing conditions of the boathouse. The other is Moran Engineering Associates LLC proposed conditions plan, dated 4/25/18. If I can open the thing that's got this up. And existing conditions plan dated 4/18/18. In addition to that, the consideration for this case is based upon finding that there's no new nonconformity and there will be no resulting substantial detriment to the neighborhood. The only condition we have is that the applicant obtain conservation approval before this event can take place. And second of all, I'm concerned about the traffic. This is, you only have one little entranceway to this cul-de-sac. Do we have a problem there? I assume you're gonna tear down and redo, which means all of the wood, et cetera, cement, you name it, you're gonna bring in. Is that gonna cause a problem? You're gonna tie up that cul-de-sac during the summer?
I don't see why they would. There is sufficient space on our property to place all of the building materials, but I could defer to my builder.
So there's no problems with traffic, et cetera?
No, the cul-de-sac is against. Sorry, John Chapman, Chapman Construction.
You want to chime in too, Dan, or?
Dan Crow from Moran Engineering, and I'd just like to say that the cul-de-sac basically isn't a driveway. There's only 3 houses on the lot. The owner owns 3 of the lots. I guess one of them has his house and there's a vacant, and then there's the one with the boathouse. And I believe you have 2 neighbors. John will be doing the work, so he could certainly tell you his method on doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, the cul-de-sac is not a multi-use cul-de-sac, so it really becomes a parking area for the Winnecks during the summer. So as far as construction and demo, per discussion with the conservation, we will bring the structure down by hand without heavy equipment. That's in lieu and taking consideration of the herring run underneath, so we're not...
Okay, thank you. I just was concerned we had to put a
Nope,
special
understood.
permission, special condition. We do not. I'll stop at that point.
Could I have a second to the motion, please?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Special permit granted.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hilliard.
Case number 2018-10, Stephen J. and Deirdre D. Chapin, is that pronounced correctly? Trustees of the Chapin Family Trust, through their agent, Attorney William Kroll, have applied for a special permit to construct 3 shed dormers on the front and a shed dormer on the rear of their pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The applicant is pursuant to the code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-54, in Table 2. Area regulations are set forth in Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 6. The property is located at 43 Joe Lincoln Road, Map 3, Parcel K1-2, in the RH-1 zoning district. We have one piece of correspondence from Dennis and Melody Callahan, 102 Riverside Street, West Harwich, Massachusetts, dated May 16, 2018. Ray, case 2018-10, 43 Joe Lincoln Road, map 3, parcel K1-2, RH-1 zoning district. Stephen J. and Deirdre D. Chapin, trustees of the Chapin Family Trust. Dear Chairman Ryer and members of the board, due to a prior engagement, my wife and I may not be able to voice our support in person at the May 30th, 2018 ZBA hearing for the above-referenced application filed by Stephen J. and Deirdre D. Chapin as trustees of the Chapin Family Trust. As direct abutters, we wholly support this application. As the parents of 2 daughters, we certainly understand the limitation that a 2-bedroom single family has on growing children. Like the Chapins, we too expand our home in Boston so that we could stay in our home and neighborhood. For the Chapins, who have 3 wonderful children, a son and 2 daughters, the need is even more pressing than ours. Having reviewed the plans for the application, we feel that the construction of the front dormers and shed dormer is fitting with our neighborhood and would have no substantial detrimental effect to our neighborhood. The residents of West Harwich and Joe Lincoln neighborhood are fortunate to have the Chapins as friends and neighbors, and we sincerely hope that the ZBA approves this project as such a wonderful family stays within our community as we are graced by their presence. Lastly, we understand that Harwich often conditions approval of such projects such that no exterior construction should take place between the summer season of June 30th and Labor Day. We would kindly ask the board to consider and grant to the Chaffins an early permit to construct the addition, as we believe that it would be an undue hardship for them to have to wait to undertake construction until the fall. Joe Lincoln Street is primarily a full-time residential street with less renters and seasonal residents who would be impacted by such an allowance. In speaking with some of our abutters, we have heard no opposition to the grant of such an early construction permit. Thank you. Sincerely, Dennis Callahan.
Okay, Attorney Kroll, if you could introduce yourself for the record and whoever is seated with you at the table, please.
Are the same five voting on this?
Same five will be voting, yes. Mr. Hilliard, Mr. Tworick, Mr. Hedersted, me, and Mr. Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney William Kroll from Harwich Port, and I have seated with me Stephen Schiffen, who's the trustee of the trust that owns the property as indicated on the petition, the Schiffen Family Trust. I submitted an assessor's map so that you can see the location of the property just to the west of, off of Riverside Drive. It's only 2 lots in, which hopefully will have a bearing on any discussion about the restriction that was brought up in the letter by the neighbor. I did not prompt that discussion by the neighbor, but it's only 2 houses in. In any event, I also submitted the certified plot plan by Terry Warner, and it shows that on the easterly side, we're only 14 feet from the lot line where we're supposed to be to meet current code, 20 feet, and that's part of where the new dormer would go in the rear, the shed dormer in the rear that would create additional habitable space. So we're seeking a special permit, but there would be no increase or no change in the footprint of this dwelling whatsoever. If you look at the chart on her plot plan, there's no changes in frontage, setbacks, no change in building coverage or site coverage. It's all on the same footprint, adding dormers. We also submitted the building and elevation plans by Strebert Associates. And basically what they're doing is 2 bedrooms on the first floor currently. One of the bedrooms is being converted to a dining room, as you can see on the plans. And then upstairs, why? Because Steve has 3 teenagers, 12, 14, and 16.
Oh, God bless him.
And he needs a place for them to go.
I can understand.
So we're getting rid of 1 bedroom on the first floor, converting it to a dining room as shown on the plans, and making 2 bedrooms upstairs that would have the A-frame dormers on the front and the shed dormer on the back. So so a total of 3 bedrooms. So right now there's 2 bedrooms. When he's done, there'll be a total of 3 bedrooms, and we're aware of Ms. Eldridge's memo in this case saying that she wants to see a septic inspection before the building permit issues. So that will be done.
A septic inspection?
Inspection, just to make sure that it's designed for 3 bedrooms, but she wants to make sure it's still operating properly. So there's no need to increase the septic, but it's going to be, she wants an inspection of it. So we're seeking a special permit in accordance with Section 325, and we have a denial letter from Mr. Chesley, the building commissioner, Section 325-54. So under the bylaw, I think we meet all 3 criteria that they cite as examples for a special permit, that a structure built in the same footprint to an increased building height. We're not increasing the building height, but we are increasing the height of the roof below the peak level because we're putting on dormers. And we're building in the same footprint and increasing the habitable floor area, as I mentioned, and we're continuing along the same line as an existing encroachment on the easterly side without increasing that encroachment. So I think all three of those criteria met. You could issue the special permit in accordance with the bylaw or the Gale case, because we have an existing nonconformity on the easterly side with some of our habitable space, and now we're going to intensify that by putting more of it upstairs. So I think that that's in accordance with the Gale case. We're intensifying an existing nonconformity. We're not creating any new nonconformity. And we are, in our opinion, not going to result in a substantial detriment to the neighborhood, and there will be no substantial increase in noise, traffic, fumes, or odors, congestion, or the like. As a result, we'd ask you to grant the special permit this evening. Previous case, a little different, had to stretch it a little bit. Now we're back to normal Gale case and standard special permit case under the bylaw.
Mr. Hilliard?
I have no questions.
Mr. Torek?
The only concern that I had was with the septic system, which you've addressed that, so, and the health department's going to do the inspection, so that's, I have no further questions, comments.
Mr. Hedersted?
The only comment I have is that if this is going to require a considerable amount of construction during the summertime, you know, I understand it's only 2 houses in, but if you block that street, you're making it very difficult for people in the remaining part of the street to get at their own place, so that's the only concern I have. I assume you're gonna be bringing in some heavy equipment to get the wood, and I assume you gotta take off shingles and stuff that's already there, and you gotta go up above, and it's gotta get dusty, messy, and it's gotta have a lot of wood work to be done. So I think the comment I have is that we ought to take a really hard look at whether that's gonna cause, if there's any way to mitigate that so that people who live on the rest of the street can get access, that would surely be appreciated. And maybe we could discuss that a little bit further, but that's the only comment I have.
Yeah, I mean, I drove down there, it's pretty tight, so I guess I would like to see no construction between June 30 and Labor Day, and then after that, you can go to town on it, but it's pretty
No
tight down
external
there.
construction, you could do internal all you
External, yeah,
want,
no
but
external.
external's the problem, I think.
Exactly. Mr. Donahue?
I have no questions.
Mr. Campbell?
No questions.
Anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this petition? I'll ask for a motion to close the hearing.
So move.
Second.
Hearing's closed. I'll ask for a motion in the case, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the board hereby grants a special permit to construct three shed dormers on the front of a shed and a shed dormer on the rear of a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The application is pursuant to the Code of Town of Harwich, Section 325-54, and Table 2. Area regulations set forth in MGL Chapter 40A, Section 6. The property is located on 43 Lincoln Road, Map 3, Partial K1-2, in the RH1 zoning district. This information, this is granted, this case and this special permit is granted in accordance with the plot plan submitted, generated by Terry A. Warner, dated, if I can find a date, 4/5/18, and I cannot find out who made these drawings. I would love to know.
Rebert Associates.
Strebert Associates, okay. Strebert Associates, drawings A1 through and including E E4. And
It's A9, if I may, Mr. Hedersted, it's A1 through
Went through A9 and
A9.
A1 through A9 and E1 through E4. Thank you for that correction.
I was also correct, it's Joe Lincoln Road, I believe.
The finding is based upon there'll be no new nonconformity, and that there will be no resulting substantial detriment to the neighborhood. Because of the property's location, there shall be no major external construction during a period 30 June through September, either 2018 or 2019, as well as, the other condition is that the septic has to have a septic inspection done before it's granted construction.
Would I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm concerned about the restriction of no construction between June and September, whether or not it puts a hardship on the owner. To me, what may make more sense is as a condition, that's just my opinion, a condition that the owner would make all reasonable, take all reasonable steps not to have any issues on that street that would affect any of his abutting owners getting into or out of their driveways. I'm familiar with the street as well. But realizing the difficulties, because I don't live too far from where this is, but I'm not in a butter, difficulties in getting builders and so on and so forth in at the right time. Sometimes you can't always plan it that way. But that's just my opinion, that we should put the burden on him to make sure that no one is affected by it, as opposed to shutting them down for a 3 months, June, July, and August.
The problem, I say just a minute, Mr. Twark, is, you know, the builders do whatever they're gonna do. They're
Yes.
gonna park everywhere, they don't care, the people drop stuff off. Where was I today? I mean, it was unbelievable. They had cars and trucks everywhere on a, you know, a regular street, and this is still
Yeah.
May, and you know, July and August. I think if the owner wanted to start earlier, he should have filed his petition earlier. Sorry, but that's my feeling. Mr. Twark?
Yeah, I just want to concur with Jim's comments. I live on a corner of Joe Lincoln and Harness, and I just don't see the traffic issue as being a problem.
Even with the vehicles parked there?
Yeah. There's other ways that you can get around if you know, there are plenty of roads that intersect Joe Lincoln.
Yeah.
But
There's ways to get to those other houses, but it's inconvenience, you know, without a doubt.
Mr. Chairman, we're assuming that they're gonna block the passageway of that street, which we know that can't be done. I mean, it's against the law to block the street. So,
I'm not assuming that. I'm just assuming if they park on one side, it's gonna be very difficult for two-way traffic, because you're gonna have vehicles parked, and it's really only wide enough for two vehicles, not for somebody parked in
yeah,
one each way.
yeah.
That's the trouble with a lot of these roads down by the water, down south.
if
of
it were
28.
Riverside, I'd have that concern, but Joe Lincoln, it's pretty much people just going one way or the other.
May I ask the petitioner a question?
I guess so.
How long is the construction period?
We're hoping to finish it in about 8 weeks total, from
So it's
start
a
to finish.
2-month period.
Yeah, with a lot of it happening interior once that exterior work is done.
Yeah,
right?
the answer really is how much of the external, really substantial external work has got to be done? How many weeks, months, whatever, external?
External work between the demolition and then the framing to
Right.
get it done is probably only 3 of those weeks. The more of the work is being done on the interior than the exterior.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the inside, because you just park on one side, but when you talk about external, and you talk about tear down, and, you know, you got a lot of stuff going on.
The tear down,
With some substantial equipment, I would assume.
the tear down is going to be done by hand, so we're not talking about bringing in cranes or anything like that. The plan is to have a dumpster in the actual driveway, so it's not going to be on the street or in any way infringing on the street. It'll be put right up against the garage in the driveway, so that it can, so that that's out of the way. There is a shoulder on our road that's grassy, so they can pull off of the street and have the majority of their vehicles actually in the grass to help with that as well.
How long is it gonna be from the time you're granted the permit till the time the girls can move in? What are you talking line?
Probably that 6 to 8 week period. Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks. From when we grant the permit to when it will depend on the builder. As Mr. Hilliard said, the builder's schedule is going to be somewhat dependent. The build period is that 6 to 8.
But you can't, you have a whole month before you can start anyway, because it's a 20-day appeal period.
Absolutely. So if we were to start,
Talking mid-July before you get your building permit.
right. So if we were to start mid-July, the hope would be to have something finished prior to Labor Day.
Really?
Yes. Yep, that would be on the 6th weekend. Now, we all know that things don't always go as planned with construction, but that would be the hope.
You could amend your motion to require all parking off Joe Lincoln. And if it's in his front lawn, it's his front lawn, it's his choice then. But no parking
Possible.
Joe Lincoln, and he's obligated to enforce that with his contractors.
Would that mean, when you say off Joe Lincoln, all 4 tires off the road of every vehicle? That might be difficult.
Do cars currently park on Joe Lincoln? Cars, visitors, and so on and so forth?
Yes, and they'll pull off into the grass, and literally about the width of their tires will be on the road. But there are some bushes there that prevent them from going further into the yard.
Not knowing how the process goes, do you have to do the dormers first before you do the interior, or do you do the interior first and then the dormers?
We have to do, on the lower level, we can do the interior first, the work that's being done on the lower level, so that eliminating that 1 bedroom, opening it up to turn it into the dining room. Any of the work upstairs, the dormers have to be built first, because you've got to have that floor space defined before you can
And
start.
approximately how long does it take them to do the downstairs interior work?
I would say it's much less, because they're simply removing a couple of walls and opening things up. So it's not that the downstairs piece is not major to the project.
I guess I'm asking a question I don't know the answer to, is how many people will it take to do the interior downstairs versus how many will it take to do the dormers upstairs? Does that mean you get a double-sized crew or one-sized crew? You say there's no heavy machinery involved, they're not bringing in mini cranes.
Correct.
Everything is gonna be built, stick-built on site.
Yes.
You don't know how many workmen they're gonna have there.
I believe the plan from the prime contractor is to have 5 folks.
Five workers.
It's actually a crew that's from Westford, which our primary residence is in Chelmsford, so we've known them for quite a while. He has a house down here in Dennis, and so he will bring the crew with him, and they will live at his house for the period of time that they're down here.
So likelihood they'd all be traveling in 1 or 2 cars?
1 or 2 vehicles, yes, that's the plan.
So how much time do you need for tear down and reconstruct, that it would be, major construction going on? Forget the internal, I'm just talking external, taking it down, and what you gotta take down, and then putting it stuff back up, wood, beams, and et cetera, how long? What kind of time?
I would estimate 3 to 4 of the weeks would be
3 to
for that.
4 weeks?
Yes, about half.
So if we were to limit the construction can only happen during a 1-month period, major construction during a 1-month period during that time frame.
Is this gonna be your year-round residence?
Not at this time, but that's the plan eventually. That's our hope.
See, it's only a summer place, so why can't it wait until after Labor Day? It's not his year-round residence, he just said his primary residence
I
is
don't
off
know the
Cape.
answer to that, I'm just,
So, no, I'm talking to the
I
board.
get it,
I mean, there's no reason to rush this thing through.
Because in Labor Day, the kids are gonna be back in school wherever your primary residence is off Cape. So, I think it can wait till after Labor Day.
I'm concerned that we're trying to fix something that we're not sure is broken yet. I mean, we don't know if there's a five-person crew, and they're staying here in Dennis, and that five-person crew is gonna end up doing the work. The only thing that's gonna take up space is gonna be the lumber. There shouldn't be more than 2 vehicles. I don't know the size of your driveway, but it doesn't seem that there's gonna be the street's gonna get blocked. But that's why my suggestion was that the burden be on the builder, that take all reasonable steps to make sure, especially if these folks aren't transient, they're here. They're here, they come in and they work and they go home at night because they're staying in the same place, that it would be your responsibility to make sure that
Most
the street
contractors
wasn't
can
blocked.
guarantee you two things. One, the project will be late, and second, over budget.
Mr. Torek.
There's a project that's been undergoing reconstruction, renovation reconstruction on Kelly Road by Handren Brothers. And they have probably 2-3 vehicles, and maybe one truck will remain on the road, but the other vehicles they pull right onto the front lawn. And it's been like this for well over 2 years, and it didn't pose any kind of hardship or inconvenience.
Well, I guess my 2 cents is we've had complaints about this. That's where this thing came from neighbors.
Yeah.
And we've already had one neighbor who's written in complaining about it ahead of time. And as a board, I think.
This project?
No,
No.
this one.
Didn't you?
That was
No, this
that
was-
was an all-in-favor letter.
Favorable.
Yeah.
They were saying they want to waive the restrictions.
They
This
wanna-
neighbor
Oh, I'm
said-
sorry, then I
yeah.
misheard.
Just the
Okay,
opposite.
just the opposite.
Yeah.
But we have had neighbors complain about this very thing, right, Ms. Secretary?
In other cases.
In other cases, yeah, not in this case.
Usually in
Okay, I
the
thought I misheard that one.
Now, they said, "We would kindly ask the board to consider and grant the Chiefins an early permit to construct the addition, as we believe it would be an undue hardship for them to have to wait to undertake construction until the fall."
Why would it be an undue hardship when it's a
And-
second home?
Joe Lincoln, well, if I may, I understand the tension between trying to keep the peace in the neighborhood and people renting and pay good money to rent, and they don't want to listen to nails and hammers and air guns and so forth. But I think we also have to try to be pro-business, and the builders are getting to the point where it seems to me that it's mid-September to mid-November, and everything has to take place between then. And then it's mid-March to mid-June, and nothing's happening in the summertime. I think if you want to micromanage this project, I think the owner has given you a lot of reasons why it would not be an inconvenience or a problem on that road, as per Mr. Hilliard and Mr. Torek, plus the letter of support says it's primarily a full-time residential street with less renters or seasonal residents who would be impacted by such an allowance. So he's saying it's mainly year-round residents there that would not be bothered by so much by this type of project. Plus, there's no cement trucks coming, there's no cranes coming. This is a smaller type of project. They want to get it done, and it is very hard from a homeowner standpoint to coordinate builders and subcontractors and so forth. And they say, well, we could have built that in July, but now we've got this other mega project down by the water in September.
The boathouse.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask another question?
Yes.
Do you plan, let's assume it's gonna be constructed July and August, whatever. Actually, not gonna be constructed July, the end of July, August. Would you be living on the premises during this time? Or would you be
if we
doing
were-
whatever you usually do on the premises?
If we were to visit, it would be for short periods, but one of the reasons that we'd like to do it during the summer is the availability to come down and be involved with the project. My wife's a school teacher, the kids are obviously in school the rest of the year. Being able to do it during the school year affords the opportunity that if there's a question, oh, we were thinking about doing this or changing this, or we need to think about that, the ability to come down and see what's happening and actually speak to somebody, rather than having it in the middle of the school year where
All right.
we're somewhat, landlocked.
Your plan was to spend more time here during the construction because you could come down and see it versus
Exactly,
September or October.
exactly.
You're gonna go into September anyway because you're not gonna start until the end of July, but.
Correct.
I would like to amend my
Motion.
my motion by deleting the terminology that I had in there regarding the restriction of major construction, and to change it to read that the owner will take whatever necessary steps to mitigate any means of blocking or prohibit blocking that road or access during daylight hours on that road during the construction period. Eliminate, as best he can, eliminate blockage of that road.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have Mr. Donahue, I guess. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Special permit granted.
Is that the amendment you just voted on? The motion as amended?
The motion has
Yeah, it's good.
amended.
All right, thanks. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Gonna have 3 happy daughters.
Jesus. 3 teenage girls, forget it.
Yeah.
We're still on videotape here.
Son has 3 daughters, ages 8, soon to be 7 and 2. Thank God they're 1,700 miles away.
That's good.
Because when they turn 18, 17,
Right.
and 14,
Between 12 and 20.
yeah.
Yeah.
Know the project then, Kelly? The
got 'em all?
project.
Yeah, I know the one very well.
What's that?
I live in the Belmont, so
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
know.
down the street.
Yeah,
A few
I walk
streets
right
away.
around the corner on
Yeah.
Harris.
It's someone's, life support or something. Every time I go by there,
Yeah.
going on.
You knew the previous owner, Ralph Ford. Did you? Yeah.
How do I know that name, Ralph?
Do we
Yeah, he's a retired physician.
need to approve
Yes,
minutes?
that's how I know. Okay.
And,
Gentlemen.
Ralph's been following the project. And he doesn't get it.
We need a
They're gonna put
motion
money-
on the minutes from the last meeting. I'm not going to vote because I
So
wasn't
moved.
here.
Who was it?
Minutes from the
Mr.
last
Hilliard
meeting.
moved to
Hilliard,
approve
got
the
it.
minutes. Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved. Do we need anything else, Ms.
One other
Clerk?
comment about something that came up with a new application. We have been requiring special permits for a building that is done within the setback going up. This was for going down. And I believe that that requires a special permit as well.
What does
It's
it
a
do?
house, with a walkout garage that they want to convert to living space. I just wanted,
Well, that covers, that's part of the area already.
what's that?
That's part of the area, counting of the area already.
But it's not habitable.
Okay, that's why I was asking the question on the boathouse. The
But if it
distinction-
increases the habitable floor area, it requires a special
That's
permit.
what I presumed, just thought
So
I,
to convert it,
Yeah, if it's, the addition, extension increases the nonconformity nature of the structure,
but
It
it's
requires a
it's
special
the use we're
permit.
talking about, not the extension.
right.
and this includes a structure built in the same footprint that increases the habitable floor area. So if
Okay.
it's down.
So habitable floor area is the operative.
Well, that's one of 3, yeah.
Okay.
Height,
habitable floor area or along
that would be the answer.
the same line as the encroachment, which I guess theoretically, it would be on the same line, just down, so I agree, I think it
a good
requires a
question.
special permit. But yeah, an excellent question.
We discussed it, the commissioner and I wanted to bring it to everyone rather than just try to address it
Yeah.
really singularly, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
so-
I didn't pick up that that was a separate lot for the boathouse.
It is.
Yeah, I know, when I looked at the plan again, but if you looked at it, they own 2 lots around that lot. That's why when he was saying the cul-de-sac is theirs, that cul-de-sac had 3 lots, they own all 3 of them.
They own all 3 of them?
Yeah,
Oh, that's kind of nice, huh?
yeah, when I looked at the plans, yeah, it's a nice.
So they must have,
Real cul-de-sac.
All right, any further business? Discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
I'll so move it.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting closed.